Hello everybody and welcome to Food Safety Fridays edition 13. My name is Simon Timpley from the International Food Safety and Quality Network. Today we have Oscar Rodriguez Gonzalez back with us again, and today Oscar's going to be talking to us about effectiveness and efficiency in food safety management systems. Most of us here will have a food safety management system and we want it to be effective and slick and efficient as well. And so Oscar's going to be giving us a few tips on how we might achieve that, some tips and tools. Hopefully again today it's going to be a rather interactive session. There'll be some questions, poll questions and questions that we'll be asking you to participate in during the webinar. Hopefully you'll get involved with that, and we'll have some Q&A afterwards. Just to mention again, you can see the sponsors there at the side who help to keep these webinars free for you each week, free learning for you every single week. IFS, Safe Food 360, FSSC and Trace Analytics, our fantastic sponsors. Thanks very much to those. I'd just like to say it is being recorded today. A repeating question is, when we'll get the slides, is it being recorded? It is being recorded. We record them every week, and we have a YouTube channel where there's a full archive of all the webinars, and we'll send you an email a couple of days after with the edited video and the slides, etc. So don't worry about that. Okay, I can see Oscar's on webcam. Hi, Oscar, welcome today. Nice to have you back with us.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Great.
For
okay.
Facilitating the webinar.
Great. Yeah. All right. Then while you get your PowerPoint ready, I'll just talk about next week's webinar, Oscar. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
All right.
Okay. Next week, we have Elizabeth Stridham from Zimbabwe. And Elizabeth's going to be talking to us about the dangers of foodborne pathogens. Elizabeth did a presentation a few weeks back on hygiene in catering. It was really good PowerPoint, actually, a really good primer on hygiene. So she's going to be focusing more directly on pathogens and hopefully some of the ways you can reduce them and eliminate them as well. You do need to register for each of these webinars so that you can log in live, and even if you want to get the video recording and slides, so you must register. And you can see there in the tab at the top, you should be able to see, actually, no, hopefully you can see next week's webinar. You can sign up directly from the sidebar there. If not, we'll be sending emails that you can react on. Okay, Oscar, if you can get your PowerPoint on the share, we'll cross over to you and we'll get started with the webinar. Okay, who have we got today? Can I see anybody? Silvana Chavez. I need to respond to your email, Silvana. It's in my inbox about Food Safety Live. A question actually to the members here. Did anybody attend the full day event last year or the previous year, Food Safety Live, where we had about 12 or 14 webinars back to back? Just say yes if you did attend. It's just as a matter of interest. I can see Esther as well. Yes, it has started, Esther. I'm waiting to see Javier. I can't really start the webinar until I see Javier, our resident joker. But anyway, we'll have to start. Okay, I can see Oscar's ready, so we'll head over and I'll be back for the Q&A later, and also I'll be interjecting with helping Oscar with some questions during the webinar. Okay.
All right. Thanks again, and welcome to the webinar. Like we have been talking about, this webinar is about effectiveness and efficiency applied to food safety management. You may have heard about these two words quite often, especially if you work with continual improvement practitioners. So first we want to kind of review what is the difference or the meanings of the two words. And to start this, we would like to ask you a question. Do you know what do you think effectiveness and efficiency is the same or they are different? What are your thoughts about the two words being effective and?
Okay, well, what we can do is we've got a question to start off with there. In your mind, attendees, before we start the webinar, with the knowledge that you already have, are effectiveness and efficiency the same thing? A simple question, 3 possible answers: yes, no, or maybe. So just type in there yes, no, or maybe. Do you think effectiveness and efficiency are the same? Alison, no. Bruce, no. No. So far, all gnomes, all knows, not gnomes, knows.
All right.
Yeah. So up to well, yes. Mostly knows, I would say. I would say definitely overwhelming knows. They're not the same thing. So are we on a good start then, Oscar, with that?
Yeah. It's more like depending on the context, but when we're talking about continual improvement, and if we get into detail, the two words will be different. That the concepts are different, but the two of them are important. And if we look at the concept from a business perspective, effectiveness is achieving the objective or solving the problem, and efficiency is about using the resources. Most of the time in business, we are looking for savings or low cost. The lower the amount of resources we use to produce the maximum output, the better for the business. But we have to make sure that the problems are solved. So we cannot use one without the other, because we can be highly efficient in achieving an objective partially. And if we don't solve the problem in a complete manner, we are or we are not solving the problem properly. We can be very efficient, but we are not solving the problem. So we have to consider that if we are working in problem solving like we do in food safety management, we have to get it done and with the minimum amount of resources as possible. So it's probably very common dilemma that we face when we're managing food safety. And at the end, it comes to managing risk with what we have. So if we look at from the two concepts using a improvement perspective, we have some metrics. We see that effectiveness is solving the problem and completely solving the problem for as much as possible. But also, if we look at from a production, is within all capabilities, right? So if we are looking if we have 100 products, like all of them or 98% of them are in good conditions, and we have a minimum amount of defects, and this ties to using the resources efficiently, because if we have defective products, we are wasting resources, and that's also not being efficient. So we have to get both of them are interrelated. It's not like completely different. But if we put some numbers on it, there is losses in the two of them. So we have to keep a balance and get the highest amount of product in good conditions using the minimum amount of resources. When we measure resources, we can talk about dollars or amount of materials, time, and any resources that we have to manage food safety and the products that are being produced in the facility that we are assisting. Probably in the food safety management business or specialty, the mock recall is one of the most common examples that we can use to concept. I don't know how you are managing the mock recall, but we usually talk that we have to recall 100% of the product. We have to be able to know where 100% of the lot that is being recalled went to. So we look into which percentage we have in the facility, which percentage went to the retailer or to the manufacturer, and if once we find where 100% of that lot that is being recalled has been located, that's being effective in finding the product. And we have to be able to pull that information and make the phone calls to recall and report to the government and certification bodies within 2 hours or less, because the faster we act in recalling the product, the less problems we have in consumers getting hurt. So use this element or use this test that we may be doing during an internal audit or external audit. It's a test for an element of the management system that has to be effective and has to be efficient. If we lose some product during the mock recall, it may get into people that get hurt, and it's out of our control. So this is an example where the two concepts are used together using a metric to evaluate how effective and efficient we are in recalling products. So now that we have a basic idea of the two concepts, how do we do improvements in food safety management? So the next question is, which of these two concepts is your favorite, like personal favorite? Do you like being effective and having all the bases covered and getting to 100% perfection? Or do you prefer being efficient and having things on time and finding ways to save resources and being fast? Or do you prefer both?
That's a good question. Okay. Can you attendees please type in if you do have a preference, if your preference is to be quick, but you're happy with 95%, or you don't mind taking your time and prefer perfection 100%, or do you aim for both? And we've got quite a lot of boths and some effectiveness. Both. Yeah, I would say the majority are both, saying that they aim to achieve both, or that's the favorite, the preference. But one or two effectiveness and one efficiency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, So from personal preference, we may have a favorite. For a business and for management, we have to consider both, because especially when we're managing risk and safety, we can get hit for not having the problem completely solved,
Yeah.
or for not being.
Yeah, I suppose, Oscar,
Mhm.
if you don't get it right first time and you get it 95% right, but quick, so you're really efficient, but you're not 100% effective, then often in business, you have to do it over again.
Yeah, and that's double the cost.
Yeah.
So we lose efficiency for not being effective.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem in food safety,
Yeah.
especially when we are more inclined to production and having more production than safety. So how this translates into managing food safety? For that, we kind of have from a series of webinars that we have been reviewing. When we use indicators for performance, we learn to look into safety as a series of events, right, which happen in time. And when we are producing or manufacturing, we are in contact with the food. We're doing some cooking and baking, and so that's the time where we are when we have the time to get things right. Then the food gets packaged, goes to the retailer. The retailer is more worried about doing business and competing in the market. So he's worried about food safety, but he doesn't have more opportunities to improve the product. It's already packaged. All they have to do is sell it to the consumer. And the consumers, if they do cooking in the kitchen, they may be worried and have time to to worry about food safety. But if not, they want to. Most of the time, they want things ready to eat, and they assume that the food they are purchasing is safe. So retailers and consumers, retailers worry about food safety, but when food is packaged, uh, everyone else assumes that the food is ready to eat. You open the package and eat the food. Um, so in this series of events or these players in the supply chain, if we add some metrics, like they do in a lot of areas of performance, like health and safety, or even sustainability metrics, there are two types of indicators. One is the activity indicators, or the things that we can do to prevent problems to happen, and outcome indicators, which is the problems that we're having. And in health and safety, we call that they say that when things are being done and you catch the problem at production, this is a risk behavior, like someone almost fell from the stairs, or almost cut the hand with a knife. That's kind of almost getting near miss. Like you're putting yourself at risk, you're putting the food at risk, and this is the time to prevent the problem. Ideally, this is where most of the improvement should be made in the production and manufacturing, because once the product gets out of the facility and goes to the retailer and the consumer, now we are and the problem happens. Now we're challenging the safety system. So that means that everything we do in food safety management is not working, or there are some things in the management system that are not working. and the problem is out of our control. And if some unfortunate event happens, it's a failure to the system. Like we were talking about, we didn't get it right. Now we have to pay the price of making products that hurt people, and especially food safety. We're talking about the human health of people that get sick and people that get ill from food safety issues. There's no point of having a management system that is producing failures or defective products. So usually when a food safety event happens, we do a root cause analysis. Uh, we define the problem, and we look into all the possible causes, like let's say the listeria was found in one of our products. Then where the listeria is coming from the water in the cleaning of the equipment, or some residuals in the equipment. It is coming in the material of the product. It is coming from the personnel that was handling the product. We start to think about all the possible causes and do an investigation on what the root cause of the problem is. Um, this is the whole root cause analysis on finding the source of the problem and trying to solve it to prevent future occurrences. But one of my recent learning experiences was looking into how they complement the root cause analysis with analysis of the impact, which is they call the bow tie analysis. If you see the figure, it looks like a bow tie. Uh, and when these type of events happen, we have to look into all the possible causes and all the possible impacts. Um, and that's a analysis of the causes and impacts, and it's useful for making a judgment of risk. There may be some types of risk that have more causes. It can come from different sources, depending on the type of product that we have or the type of consumer that we're selling to. We may have different type of effects. Like we talk about young, old, immunocompromised, and pregnant women. This is more sensitive population. Allergen, people that is allergic to some food is more higher impact from food safety events. There are some people that may be healthier and stronger, and they can keep their they may be able to handle allergen. All right, so we were in the bow tie analysis. Um, I will share some videos on how bow tie analysis is done once we post the webinar in IFSQN. Well, if we look into events like they do in bow tie analysis, we have some things that we do for prevention, and we call preventative controls. There's some things we do for detecting problems with detective controls or the critical control points or control points. There are things that we do to fix the problem when it happens. This is all the corrective actions that we think in advance for fixing the problem. The mock recall, the traceability testing. There is things like we hope and we implement things for problems not to happen, but then when they occur, we have to be ready for fixing them. And it's all so the whole food safety management system is about prevention and readiness to to be fast in solving a problem when it happens. So we usually do operation procedures and everything, thinking how we're gonna fix the problem in case something goes wrong. Right? So then it comes to which areas do we use effectiveness and efficiency in the food safety management system. So we have the preventative controls, the effective controls, and corrective controls. Then if we look into the good agricultural practices or manufacturing practices, we have a set of things that we have to get covered in the management system. And there are some things that we cannot control that well, that change depending on the facility or the business operation. There are some that personnel may not be the collaborative. Then you have to work in the culture and the training, and there are some where probably the equipment is not helpful, and we have to be more careful with the equipment that we use. But maybe the material that we are sourcing is not the best quality, then we have to keep an eye on the material. So this is more preventative when we have to be effective in covering all the good practices, so we don't get into events that are near misses for food safety. Usually we have, depending on the system we implement a hazard plan where we look to the processing line or the production line, and we have control measures or control points that are selected based on the hazard that we may be having in our product, and based on our knowledge on hazards and the steps, the processing steps that we're using, then we select steps in the process where we're doing control measures for controlling the hazards, and we are paying more attention for hazards to happen. Usually we talk about how many critical control points we should have. We can have as much as the costing of the product allows. Some hazard plants may not even have a critical control point, but the idea is that as we are improving, only the things that are completely out of our control, like microbes and maybe some physical hazards, those are the ones that we have to pay more attention to. If not, as we go along improving our management system, we should be having less control points, especially if we are automating, like if we make things automatic or aseptic, like once it's pasteurized, everything is aseptic with no more contamination. All the personnel is well trained, so then we can either find more hazards or make easier the food safety management. So which techniques do we use for improvement? But this is the next topic, and the question is, where do you see making improvements in the good practices in agriculture or manufacturing, or in the hazard plan, which is based on the hazards and the control points? What do you think that you need?
Okay, so we want you to type in where do you see yourself doing improvements? Where do you need to focus improvement? Is that GAP, which is good agricultural practice, or GMP, good manufacturing practice? So depending on your industry, Do you focus on GAP, GMP, or HACCP? So just type in where you really need to improve or focus. So we're getting GMP, GAP, all, HACCP, all, GMP. Well, the question is, Colleen, is where do you see yourself doing improvements, or where do you need to focus your improvements to become more effective? Is it GMP or HACCP? Yeah, and a lot of them are well, it's a mixture really, but I would say the majority would be probably GMP, just about. Yeah, that probably GMP. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we usually see the good manufacturing practices or the good practices as a laundry list that if you give me a list of things that I need to do and it's properly described, then it's just a matter of going to the floor and executing. But we still have to be effective. Like, let's say we're talking about hand washing, and the good manufacturing practice say that you have to wash your hands in a sink that is a stainless steel and it has a pedal or hands-free. It's a detail how we have to do the good practice, but we still have to prove that we are doing it proper and the instructions are being followed. So it may be well described in the good practice, but we still have to go to execution and see if we are following instructions. Right? So if we go back to the risk analysis or the hazard analysis, we take an event like hand washing and see what the possible causes where hand washing can go wrong. People is in a rush and that they don't take too long time washing their hands. There is no soap, or the keeping the hand washing station stocked with materials is not being done proper. There's a lot of things that can affect just one event on a good practice, and it can have a lot of consequences. So that's why we have to select control measures, and in addition to following the instructions, we have to find a way to make it work. How we make sure that people is washing their hands, then we have to, if they are not doing proper, we have to do more monitoring, more verification. That will be a control measure, verifying more that the activity is being done. It's usually think about control measures like it has to be a piece of equipment, like pasteurization. The control measure can be different types. It can be an activity. This gets more into like making a hazard plan, but it's part of the food safety management system too, where any activity that we do to prevent a hazard to occur, it has to be verified and validated, and we should be able to select verification activities and validation activities that are effective, because if it's not working the first time, we have to find a type of activity that is more effective. We usually do some validations of the control measure by establishing critical limits that you have to validate the hand washing. Is the hand washing achieving low microbial content? or 0 micros when we're washing our hands. And when we do the planning, is when we're talking about corrective actions. We have thought about if people doesn't wash their hands properly, we use gloves, or if we observe someone that is not washing their hands proper, we do retraining, or we ask them to wear gloves, which would be our idea. So that's part of making one event where a hazard may occur or a good practice more effective. Usually we talk about effectiveness, we talk about knowing the hazard. One of my recent projects is to make like a spectrum of all the hazards. Most of you may be familiar with biological, chemical, and physical hazards. Now my point is, how do we categorize them, or can we have a tool that makes it easier to visualize all the hazards and select them? I've been kind of tuning the tool based on what I know about the hazard and where it has been published. And in biological hazards, it's easier to classify them by size, or the method that we use for counting them, like culture methods or microscopes. But the most difficult hazards that are to categorize is the chemicals, because some like allergens and toxins, they occur naturally in the food. So it's about knowing the food and which variety of product we're using. And others occur because of the processing of like cleaning chemicals or pesticides. It's about knowing all the chemicals that we're using for producing the food. But there are some that we don't even have an idea, or we don't have a clue where it's coming from, like fraudulent chemicals like melanine, or any type of chemical that is introduced to make fraud. We don't know where it's coming from. It may be able to pass a test in the chemical laboratory, but it's not exactly where it should be, and it can cause harm. So I think that most of the chemical hazards is about knowing your food, knowing your materials, but also be prepared that anything can happen in the food supply chain, or especially people trying to commit fraud with chemicals. They can add anything as long as it increases the protein content or fat content of the food. The chemical hazards are more difficult to classify, but it's good to have an idea or where they're coming from. Then the physical hazards, those are more easy to differentiate because it's visible. We can see large pieces of rocks or metals. Probably the most dangerous of them is metals and glass, because they're sharp, or hard plastic. But then with physical hazards, because we can see them, easier to differentiate using our eye, and easier to prevent, because we can have construction materials and more preventative controls that are fixed, like we do the construction once and then we don't have to worry about the problem. Use some monitoring, but doesn't have to be that frequent. And it's a material that is more easy to classify. So that's improving effectiveness in knowing the problem, knowing the control measures, and how to fix them if they occur. Now, efficiency, which is what most business people like. There is a whole area of interest interested on lean thinking, lean for business, which is kind of a minimalist thinking. Things can be done faster than they are. We can use less resources that we use. So because the purpose of business is making profit, the less resources we use to create the maximum output, the more efficient we are. And lean manufacturing, they use the value stream mapping, which is what is displayed on the screen. And in the value stream mapping, what we do is we analyze a process from the beginning to the end and see where we're wasting resources, and we make improvements based on the steps or the areas where we're wasting resources. This can be applied to document management, information management, like in the case of mock recall, where information has to move fast. Like we have to be able to reach the consumer of the food affected fast. So we have to really be efficient to fix the problem. We can use this type of efficiency for communicating the problem internally. Like if a deviation occurs, depending on how bad the problem is, like this guy is not washing his hands properly, we don't have to go to senior management to come up with a solution that he has to wash his hands proper. We go to the operation procedure, ask him to wash hands proper. But then if we have a bigger problem, like we found listeria in the product and the product has already been shipped, then we have to move fast because the product may be reaching the retailer and this information has to flow fast to senior management. And it's good to have the forms, but we have to communicate faster. We have to have a procedure for that. So there are some, depending on the risk, there are some things that we have to be more efficient in managing. You have to remember that like we have been talking, for doing things fast, we may not be doing them right. So we can fall into having to pay twice for solving the problem, or even committing fraud or falling into legal events that may do more damage to the business than they helping to solve the problem. So we have to be careful in where to apply efficiency, especially when we communicate with business people that are more interested in exploiting the resource the maximum as possible. We have to apply this knowledge to our duty of managing the food safety, and make them realize that we can be efficient. We can apply lean concepts, but we have to get them do things right and use all the possible resources, all the tools that we have in our toolbox to make sure that the problem is solved. So in kind of wrapping up, the last question is, which of the tools do you think that is more useful for making improvements?
The question there was when it comes to efficiency, and we're talking about lean tools and businesses, you know, they, in their mind, quick, lean, fast is more value, less money. And yeah, we have to consider that. We work in a business and we've got to survive and thrive against our competition. So it's a balance of effectiveness and efficiency. But when we're talking about efficiency, I think the question there was, what is your preferred tool? And the tools were bow tie analysis and I've never heard of bow tie analysis. I've certainly never used it. So bow tie analysis, hazard spectrum and value stream mapping. So if you could just type in there which is your preferred, maybe it's something completely different. Personally, I think 5S is a fantastic platform and base. If you're well organized, place for everything in its place, clean, shining. Everybody knows where everything goes, and you've got the right tools for the job. That lends itself and is a good foundation for any, and should be for any lean or more deep lean thinking tools such as value stream mapping, and I guess things like hazard spectrum and bow tie analysis. So you just type in there what tools do you use or do you prefer to use in a business? What's the most important lean tools? And hopefully then Oscar will be back and we can read the results out to him, so we won't have missed much time. So yeah, we've had a couple value stream mapping, a few value stream mapping. Would 20 keys be a good tool to use? 5S, Shannon said agreed, 5S. Teresa, VSM, value stream mapping, 5S. I mean, there are no right and wrong answers, I suppose. They all are structured and proven techniques for improving a business. And I believe that things like 5S, I know I keep going on about it, it's my favourite. If you are well organised, etc., if you follow the 5S methodology, you are efficient, but you actually become more effective as well. So it supports effectiveness. So it's a win-win. Combination of 5S and Kappa, corrective and preventive action. Well, every system should have a very robust corrective and preventive action system. But yeah, 5S and Kappa. Just with some simple tools like that, you can go a long way. Another value stream mapping from Eva. Silvana Chavez, 5S is powerful, but the challenge is behavior and discipline. Exactly. And that's why 5S, it should involve all operators and management. I mean, I've had success in the past by having a 5S system across all departments where you actually have a 5S scoring as well, and you audit cross department, and there's targets, and there's even prizes for reaching different levels, bronze, silver or gold. So yeah, it can be a big driver, but it does behavior and discipline. If you don't have the disciplines in place, then the nice shadow board and all the tools, it takes a lot of work setting it up, and they all disappear the next shift. So it needs behavior, attitude and culture change, and that has to be driven by management. And that's supervisors and managers every shift going out there, making sure that things are in its place, and anything that's not is dealt with quickly. If management don't support it, then you won't get the behavior and attitude change from operators, and it won't work. Totally agree. 5S is a big tool. Anything else apart from value stream mapping and 5S? Has anybody heard of bow tie analysis? Has anybody used it? And also hazard spectrum. maybe there are things that we need to provide some further links on, and perhaps some examples of how they can be used, especially in a food context, food business, perhaps. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do while we're here. I'm going to display the certificate so that you can download that while we're waiting, so that we're using this downtime more effectively. So if you can, in the pop-ins window, hopefully you can see the certificate for today's webinar, and hopefully you can download that. Just click the big, go to the pop-ins tab at the top and click the big download now button. That'll take you to a page, the sponsors offers page, and on the right hand side there you should be able to download your certificate. Don't disappear when you've got your certificate. You'd feel bad if you hadn't earned it right till the end. You wouldn't be able to sleep at night, surely. So just go over to the pop-ins tab and then click the download now button, and hopefully you can get your certificate. Scott says sustain is the biggie in 5S. Absolutely correct. That's right. How you sustain it, you do everything, you get everything cleared, you get shined, you get cleaned, and how do you sustain it? Yeah, and I say that's by management commitment and having some sort of structured audit system. It's a must for the sustain. If you don't have the auditing in place, it just all falls away. That would be my suggestion for sustain. There is actually on the IFSQM forum a audit checklist for 5S, so I could put that into the pack that we send. I've found that very useful in the past, and yet Scott, sustain is the big one. Okay. It's taking Oscar a while to get on. I think he crashed out because of his internet connection. It's obviously not any of us, it's not Google, and I can see that Oscar's back now, so he must have come back online. Oscar?
Yep.
Yeah, while you've been
yep.
gone, I've directed everybody to the certificate to save a bit of time, so we didn't waste the downtime. I've also got the results of the poll, which we can just have a quick look at while you get your presentation ready.
Yep.
The question was, which is most important, efficiency or effectiveness? And the results are efficiency 6%, effectiveness 35%, and about equal 58%. So we'll swap it around. Equal effectiveness and efficiency equal about 58%, effectiveness 35%, and efficiency 6%. And I suppose those 6% perhaps are business owners. But
yeah, so like at the usually when we're looking from a safety perspective, we're trying to save the business from trouble, right? But then trouble in compliance, what most business people is trying to save the business is from money trouble.
Yeah.
And especially when it's a small business, to falling into high costing and getting out of business for not managing resources properly. So this is a continuous battle. One is trying to save money, and the other is trying to save the company from non-compliance. Both of them are important, and it's part of the balance of managing the business itself, right?
Yeah.
If it goes into too much greedy and for trying to save money, you put the company at risk on food safety. Then justice greed and you fall into fraud and hurting people for money. That's a balance that we have to keep in mind when we work with food safety.
Yeah. The question that you had up on your slide, I don't know if you can get your slides back up. Which of the tools do you think is most useful for improvements? Bow tie analysis, hazard spectrum, and or value stream mapping. I carried on with that question while you've been away, and the majority answered value stream mapping. I don't really know what I've certainly never used bow tie analysis or hazard spectrum, and nobody seems to have sort of even heard of bow tie analysis or hazard spectrum, but a lot use value stream mapping. But then we got also onto 5S. You know that 5S is a great foundation for, well, if you're well organized, clean, tidy, a place for everything in its place, you know, disciplined like that, then you will be effective and efficient. You'll be efficient, sorry, but that kind of environment leads to effectiveness as well as efficiency. So that's a good base. So that's where we got to.
Yeah, I will post some more information about the bow tie analysis and the hazard spectrum when we post the webinar on SSQN. The bow tie analysis is basically root cause analysis enhanced with all the impacts, which is more a risk analysis tool. So it's not only considering the causes, but the effects. The hazard spectrum is that graph with all the hazards that I showed that I'm working on. So I guess we'll need to, we can share more information in the first two tools too.
Yeah, that would be a good idea to share some in the follow-up to this. And also somebody said maybe we do a webinar on those types of things in the future, you know, dedicated on value stream mapping or bow tie or the hazard spectrum. So we could do that in future.
And the 5S, they have included the 6S, which is safety.
Safety, yeah.
You do everything in place, but when you're doing it, keep in mind that has to be safe. Right?
Yeah.
Don't get intoxicated because of the cleaning and things.
That's a good point. Are you going to carry on with your presentation now?
Yeah, the last two slides is just conclusions that effectiveness is a measure of the capabilities, or how capable are we doing of producing or achieving the objective with respect to all the potential that we have. So from the 100% potential that we have, how much are we achieving? Efficiency is a measure of the resources that we're using to achieve the objective. Then the management systems can be improved from using any of the two perspectives. As a general rule, the corrective controls need to be improved for efficiency, because once the problem breaks out, we have to fix it and fix it fast. The preventative controls, when we have more time for planning and executing, then if we have more time to plan and to do things right, then we better do them effectively. Then other areas of improvement include the management of information, internal, especially when we're managing and taking decisions. We have to communicate more with safety events, either supervisor to operator, or if the problem is getting too big and out of control, supervisor to senior management, depending on the levels of the business or the corporation. So use information management, paperwork or electronic communication has to be efficient and to improve the system that we have. So the next webinars that we have planned is talking about more economics of food safety, how we can add more into the plate of food safety, waste quality, and sustainability. That's coming up in the following months.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks, Oscar.